The jungle swamp stirred with the faint breath of the morning, as though rousing itself from a deep primordial slumber. A soft hum of life filled the air, a symphony of insects, birds, and the faint rustle of unseen creatures weaving through the underbrush. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the veil of mist, dappling the wet ground with patterns that shimmered like liquid gold. Each leaf, still glistening with dew, reflected the nascent light, creating a scene that felt suspended between waking and dreaming. Zephyr stood alone in the clearing, his figure poised yet relaxed. He was part of the landscape, and yet apart from it, a sentinel in a realm of eternal transformation. The night had passed without a trace, leaving only the serene stillness of dawn. Slowly he unfurled his wings, each feather catching the sunlight like a prism, refracting colors that danced in harmony with the shifting mist. His movements were deliberate, almost ceremonial. As he stretched his frame and rolled his shoulders, a soft click broke the silence as he unlocked his beak, the sound resonating like the beginning of a mantra. In the tranquil moment, Zephyr spoke softly, his voice calm, a melody that seemed to weave itself into the natural rhythm of the swamp. In the silence of the open morning, I pray. He raised his arms, lifting his chest to the golden light. The stretch was both physical and spiritual, a deliberate act of inviting vitality into every fiber of his being. I stretched the muscular encasement, he continued, inviting fresh life to the day. He inhaled deeply, his lungs filling with invigorating coolness of the morning air. Each breath awakened the jungle further. A faint breeze shifted through the clearing, carrying it with it the earthly scent of damp soil and the sweet fragrance of blooming flowers. Red and orange tulips burst from the ground like tiny flames, their vibrant hues a stark contrast to the swamp's muted green and brown. Their light danced in the gentle breeze, as if responding to Zephyr's presence. Every moment we are given opportunity, Zephyr murmured, his tone shifting to one of quiet contemplation. He paused. His gaze was distant as his thoughts turned inward. It can be to grow or to cling to the past. His feathers ruffled instinctively, an unconscious ripple of energy that mirrored his words. He lowered his gaze to the ground, his sharp eyes tracing the patterns of light and shadow that moved across the damp earth. Patience, he said, his voice deepening with conviction. He clenched his hands briefly, feeling the tension before releasing it slowly. It's seeing that all things happen for a reason. As if in agreement, the tulips swayed in unison, their fiery glow intensifying. A faint ripple coursed through the ground beneath his feet, subtle yet undeniable, like the heartbeat of the swamp itself. There are no accidents, Zephyr declared, his voice steady, carrying the weight of ancient wisdom. The sound of trickling water rose from the distance, the gentle flow weaving a melody that harmonized with the natural symphony of the jungle. The swamp, alive in its stillness, reflected the glowing light of the day. Its surface shimmered, a mirror to the vibrant awakening above. The water remains, Zephyr continued, his gaze shifting to the horizon where the morning sun cast long shadows across the bog, behind each rise of the azimuth, each cycle of the passing sun. He gestured toward the rippling water, his tone questioning yet thoughtful. What intention is it then? Is it caught up in the past, or is it now? Crouching low, he brushed his wing against the damp earth. The cool, rich soil pressed against his feathers, grounding him. His voice softened, becoming almost prophetic. To see, he whispered, all moments are here, in the center of the bog. Good and bad, it's all here. The tulips flickered gently, their lights dimming momentarily as a breeze passed through the clearing. Rising slowly, Zephyr's expression grew thoughtful, his eyes tracing the interplay of light and shadow across the landscape. Duality, he mused. His voice was tinged with a faint smile. You ask for trust? Then what is that I'll add to the sum of my belief? He exhaled deeply, his body settling into a state of calm stillness. The swamp seemed to respond, its sounds coalescing into a synchronized rhythm, as though it too shared in the moment of serenity. Small preponderance, Zephyr said quietly, his tone introspective. I serve my synthesis, my vitality. Closing his eyes, he let his chest rise and fall with measured breaths. The moment hung timeless, the bog holding its breath alongside him. When he spoke again, it was barely above a whisper. If health, if purification were easy. The swamp grew quieter still as Zephyr began to walk, his focus unwavering as he emerged from the clearing. Ahead, a ledge overlooked a sprawling field of stone monuments. They stood like watchers of time, weathered by countless years, yet steadfast in their defiance of decay. Shafts of sunlight pierced through the gaps in the jungle canopy, illuminating patches of moss and lichen that clung stubbornly to the ancient stone. Would we not all do it? Zephyr asked, his voice steady. He paused at the edge of the ledge, his gaze sweeping across the monuments below. What else is possible, he asked, the silence of the swamp answering him with the faint rustle of unseen creatures. Taking a step forward, he felt the ground firm beneath him, a subtle reassurance. What else is not, he added, his tone contemplative. What has changed as we walk? What has remained the same? In the distance, a flock of birds took flight, their cries echoing faintly across the swamp. Zephyr's gaze followed them, his voice tinged with wonder. Every day has something to discover, he said softly, if you look with open eyes. The jungle seemed to shift in response, the breeze growing stronger as though punctuating his words. The air was alive, charged with possibility. The changing of the tides will always be true, Zephyr said, tilting his head upward. It is our knowledge that pulls us through to the other side. As he stepped onto a narrow path, the ground beneath his feet became uneven, leading him closer to a strange cluster of stone platforms. Each monument was adorned with shifting symbols, A's and pluses, etched into their surfaces. They glowed faintly, their light pulsating in rhythm with an unseen force. I was not sure what I would find as I entered the depths of my own soul, Zephyr admitted, his voice tinged with somber reflection. He placed a wing on one of the stones, its surface cool beneath his touch. Though I see that procession will guide the water to where transformation is needed most. A faint hum of energy rose beneath his feet, subtle but unmistakable. His eyes narrowed as he stood still, his posture resolute. An odd sense tells me something from beyond the past is hanging on, Zephyr said, his tone hardening. Let it then. I will still continue to move forward. He ascended a stone platform, its surface adorned with flickering symbols that danced like shadows in the shifting light. At its center, a sword jutted out from the rock, its blade buried deep within the core. Two white flags flanked the platform, fluttering softly in the breeze. Nearby, twin flames flickered beside a strange entrance leading into the earth, their light casting shadows that seemed to breathe with life. Be still, Zephyr said, his voice calm, yet resolute, for all is now. The wind swirled around him, tugging at his feathers as the flames flared briefly, their glow illuminating the symbols etched into the stone. All is changed, Zephyr concluded, his tone unwavering. Only I walk the path now. Only I remain. He drew a deep breath, his gaze steady as he prepared to step into the unknown. The jungle, the swamp, the morning light, they all seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what destiny would unfold.